sure this works. All right. So, hello everyone. My name is Jay Cooper, and I'm going to be presenting my app that's currently in development called Cider Finder. So, how many of you have ever enjoyed or currently enjoy hard cider? Show of hands. That guy. So, believe it or not, it is a $2 billion industry right now. Hard to believe. It is the second most popular. If you group it in with beers, it's the second most popular beer, right behind IPAs, and I'm sure most of you have probably tried one of those if you're able. In the next few years, it's going to be moving up to $10 billion, billion with a B, in the next 5 years or so, they're predicting. But believe it or not, this industry is mostly powered by word of mouth. There's no real advertising because it's such a niche market. There has to be a better way to get the word out about different cideries. There are over almost 600 cider makers throughout the US, craft cider makers. If you're doing a Google search, you're finding things like Woodchuck, Angry Orchard, those sort of things, the national brands that are owned by the big beer companies. That some people like that stuff, that's fine. But what if you're an enthusiast and you're trying to find, a blueberry adjunct cider or something with ginger, and you're not going to find these things outside of your local market. You just can't. Unless you're just going to dig through Google forever and ever. So there has to be a better way to find this stuff. There has to be a better way for cideries to make their products known. So we're calling this thing Cider Finder. It is an advertising platform for cider makers while being a discovery platform for cider enthusiasts. Kind of a two-sided operation here. It's kind of a mock-up of what we think our app is eventually going to look like. It's currently in development right now, and we're hoping to have the beta out there available for people to try out sometime this fall, because you think apples, fall, all that stuff, why not cider? So you'll be able to import your different types of ciders that you like, different characteristics, and then cider makers will be able to control their information, and I'll get more into that as we go along. So like I said, this is kind of a two-sided market here. You have your cider consumers, your enthusiasts. It'll be free to use for them. For your cider producers, it'll be a $50 a month subscription, so $600 a year for them. They'll be able to maintain their inventory lists. They will be able to run a limited number of advertisements in the app. And acquisition for these folks, the cider consumers will find it through their favorite cideries. I was able to actually go to Entrefest this past week and actually met up with some folks that have connections over in Michigan. And Michigan, if you didn't know, in the Midwest has the most number of cideries in that state for the Midwest. So you've got Michigan's a hot spot, the West Coast, and New York State in the Northeast. There are a few cider apps out there right now, but they're just not doing the trick. A lot of what we're seeing are from England or Australia. We're not trying to compete with those right now because they're just focused on those countries. We're looking at the United States. There are other ones that are more geared toward festivals, and the cider glass one there is designed more for the cider makers to keep track of their tap lists, but there's no good interface for the people that actually want to find these ciders. There are craft beer apps out there that do have ciders in them, but from our customer discovery, we found that people don't really want to use beer apps to find cider. They think, oh, it's a beer app. That's scary. It's got all these things that I don't understand on here. I just want to deal with cider. So these guys are out. Expansion, basically the sky's the limit for expansion. We can expand to other countries after we've conquered the United States with Cider Finder. We've also got options to expand this to other beverages, other niches like whiskey. There's as vocal as the group is for cider, the folks that really enjoy their whiskey and their bourbon are just as vocal, if not more. Same goes for wine. This is years down the road though. We're focusing on cider right now. I am the idea guy for this, and I'm also wrangling all the data for Cider Finder. Between the 600 different cider makers, there are over 3,000 ciders out there. And I know I've probably only tried about 20 of them. So I personally have a lot of work to do, as do our users in the future. The rest of my team couldn't be here today. They're actually all down in Fairfield, where there, oddly enough, is quite a cider culture down there. They've got Jefferson County Cider Works, the Cider House restaurant. We came up with this idea during a startup weekend, believe it or not, over in Illinois. I have a little bit of an addiction to startup weekends, and I went over there. I knew the people running that one, so I thought I'll show up to that one. Met the folks from Fairfield. We hashed it out, came up with the idea to focus on cider rather than beer, and we're just plugging along at it. Kevin is our UX and marketing guy. Lee is our main salesman. He's just all charisma. And Ty Ward is our developer. He knows how to make apps, which is perfect for this. So visit our website, ciderfinder.co. You can also visit our Facebook and Twitter. We try to keep up with cider news and different cidery openings and that sort of thing. And so with that, I will take any questions you have. Thank you. Yes.
2 questions. So, are you live and on the App Store right now? Because I do like cider.
We are not live yet. We will have our beta up there. We're hoping October 1st. That's our hard and fast deadline to get that done. Yes.
And how do you intend? Are you going to go the same I know there's not a cider finder per cider finder, but are you going to rely a lot on word of mouth to get this out there? Or
yes. Unfortunately, that's one of the best ways. We're planning to the cider makers that end up subscribing with us, that give us the $50 a month. We will give them all the marketing materials they need. We're going to give them a cool sign to put up to kind of say, you like our stuff, put it in Cider Finder, so then you can keep track of these things. So once you're traveling or whatever, if you go to other cider makers in other states, that hopefully will also be on our system at that point, you'll be able to find the stuff you like right away and not have to wade through things you don't like. Yes?
So as the veteran venture school or
yes.
business model canvas guy that you are,
Mm-hmm.
you know this question's coming. Tell me about whatever traction you've got through customer discovery with the cider makers in terms of their willingness to pay $50 a month.
That's actually how we set the $50. We started kind of upping our amount. We started with 20, and then, oh yeah, we'll pay 20, we'll pay 20. How about 35? Oh, we would probably pay that. 50 was kind of the line where, yes, they will still pay that. Anything more than that a month, they don't really, their margins aren't huge, so they don't have a ton of money to spend. But talking with them about, this is basically coming out of your advertising budget, and you'll make that $50 a month back easily by the few new people you get in that are actually trying things, that are paying $5 a pop to get something off one of your taps. Anything above 50, then the reaction wasn't the greatest, so we figure we're maxing that out, and if we find out differently that they'll end up paying more, we would be happy to make more from each cider maker, but we're starting at 50. Yes?
So I like the business model.
Thank you.
How many subscribers did they say you had to have on the platform before they were able or willing to pay $50? Because if I made cider, and I'm paying $50 a month or $600 a year to be on this platform, I want to see X amount of people on the platform before I would even be willing to pay that.
There was never a specific number to that. They wanted in the thousands, at least locally in the hundreds, closer to the thousands. The bigger the cidery, the more people they want on there. So you're smaller, just starting out, yeah, it'd be great just to have a few hundred people on there, extra people that'll find us. For the bigger ones, it was more of, yeah, we'd like to see 5,000, 10,000 people, more of a critical mass before we agree to sign on with this. With the cideries, it's more of, hey, you get to actually control your data. The stuff we're importing, we found on your website. And it might be right. It depends when you last updated your website. So if you want control over this data, if you don't want people to come in and say, I want the strawberry cider, and you say, we haven't made that in 2 years, I can't help you because it's on your website. So, but yeah, thousands. Yes?
In conjunction with that question, this just maybe some advice. You might want to sell this more on a lifestyle
Okay.
tip, right? Like you might want to have it be more of like fun people drinking all the time. That should be your advertising, not maybe so much focus on the tech end. It's there,
Sure.
but it's not like it's not the focus of it.
Right.
And do more like a guerrilla marketing campaign where you're in the community, inviting these, is it a cidery? Is that what you call it?
Yes, the cider makers are cideries.
Yeah, cideries.
Yes.
Inviting them in to be a part of those celebrations, right? And
Mhm.
giving it to them for free, so there's some value added
Sure.
for them to get on your platform. Because
Sure.
if they're seeing people come to these events,
Mhm.
there's enough people coming to these type of events, then they're saying, hey, we should probably be on this platform. That's a marketing.
Sure. And that's, as we move along, there are some larger like cider fairs, and there's a big event in February in Chicago, which we're planning to go to next February. They call it CiderCon. And it's basically all the bigger cider makers, anyone associated with it, that's the place to be. But the smaller fairs, there's one in Minneapolis, there's kind of all over the Midwest have these things. And something we've been throwing around just to get the word out about ours, because there are 5 cideries in Iowa, have everyone come together, maybe at a central location, and have a big fair, invite some people from out of state. So we are kind of thinking along the same lines. Yes. Yes.
I was gonna, I used to work in the coffee industry,
Okay.
like in a specialty, and
Mhm.
there's been a handful of like apps that have kind of tried to do that. So like, hey, like how can I find like a specialty coffee shop?
Sure.
And generally like the issues either been, and this is kind of like going back to your revenue model, is
Mhm.
like, I get contacted, hey, we want to put your shop on here. And some of it was free and some of it was not.
Mhm.
And the issue, like a lot of times that I talk to people who are using the apps, they're like, I go to a new city and there'd be nothing.
Sure.
And so there's like, this is Minneapolis, like clearly there's specialty coffee shops here.
Mhm.
Why is there nothing on here?
Right.
And so I think that if people have to pay $50 to get on there,
Mhm.
then I think you're gonna have this issue of like, you may not have enough people on your app. So do you have like a free where like a cidery can be listed on there no matter what?
Yes, so they'll all be listed on there.
Okay.
It's just a matter of, we can't guarantee their data is completely correct.
Yeah.
That'll be up to them to subscribe, get all that on there,
Yeah, 'cause I think
change that.
that was the main, is like
Yes.
making sure you actually have all of, and then
Yes.
kind of like, so maybe almost as you're explaining it, when I was like, oh, like if I don't pay, I can't even be a part of the platform.
Right.
And so maybe kind of explaining like, hey, the data will be there.
Mhm.
Anyone can list, anyone can contact us to be on there.
Right.
It's $50 for this like premium listing. Maybe
Yes.
kind of calling it a premium listing
Okay.
rather than kind of a listing. So.
Sure. Okay.
Hey, going back to your demonstration of
Mhm.
how this might look, help me understand. You said if I'm a cider lover, I'm on, and there's a cider that's not produced locally, and I find it on this platform, and I can have it shipped to me or imported to me?
In the future, alcohol laws are kind of stupid.
And that's what I've been asking, because the ATF is pretty...
Yes. Yes. There are people that do the shipping, that sort of stuff, and the plan is in the future to partner with one of those folks, so we're not having to deal with that. But yes, the sale, being able to say, I like that, but it's out in Vermont, and I'm not going to drive to Vermont to go get it. I would like them to ship it to us. We will have that set up, but that's going to be an addition in version 2 in a year and a half from now.
So then, if the main attraction to me coming to Cider Finder is finding all these ciders that I normally would not have locally,
Yes.
then coming on as those first couple of users, what usefulness do I have in it if I can't get those beers outside my range?
It's mostly meant to just be a discovery platform for this stuff at the moment. And it's more meant for, it really is just meant for the discovery of the things. But we have taken into account that people are going to want to buy this stuff. It's a matter of just being able to have people be able to find these things first. Just being able to do this thing out in stages.
You
Because
see what I'm asking it, right? Because like,
Yes.
if you charge the $50 per month for the audience that then can't get the beer. The audience can't get the beer, the audience doesn't want to find the beer they can't get.
Right.
So we gotta solve that issue at some point
Right.
first.
And some of these cider makers, while we've been scraping their websites, trying to find their data, they're already selling stuff on their websites. We will have all of that information on there, and in version 1, whatever ones are actually being sold, we will have that linked, but it's not going to be a highlight of the app right now. But I understand where you're coming from with that. Yes?
Do you like track the kind of like home location of your users?
We'll be keeping track of where they are at the moment, and that will base on what sort of push notifications and things they get. Yes.
The only reason that I ask is like, are you going to be able to like tell someone like, by the way, you should type with us because there are 100 of our users within like 1 mile of your.
I hadn't thought of that, but that is an excellent idea.
That would be like.
Yes.
So I'm an attorney, and there are a lot of websites that have this sort of freemium model for us.
Mhm.
Find Law, Avo, lawyers.com, Martindale Hubble, right? So they've got a listing for you, and if you want to take control of it, you sometimes have to pay, you sometimes just have to show up and take control of it.
Sure.
But having all these options out there, I know that it is a total pain to maintain them.
Mhm.
You know, if I choose to take control of 2 of my profiles, that means every time I update my website
Mhm.
or something like that, I need to go out, you know, if I choose practice areas or something, I have to go and update it on my website, I have to go update it on these other websites. It's a pain.
Mhm.
And these people are going to be having to do that constantly because they change their offerings seasonally. How are you going to make it convenient for them?
In the future, we're going to figure out some sort of integration with if they're using like a WordPress site, creating a WordPress plugin that will, if they have a tap list page, it'll just like that update it from what they've put into Cider Finder. But again, that's out a ways. So, yep. Good.
I was wondering if I were to download the app, like would I have to one by one click on cideries and see what they're all about, or would there be a way where I could like filter my preferences to find like the cidery that's right for me?
So you'll be able to put your preferences in. So if you like dry ciders or you like sweet ciders, that'll start narrowing things down. You'll be able to put in all these different characteristics that you like the best. The app will then do the work for you and say, hey, there are 7 cideries within 300 miles that produce a cider, and it'll list those ciders based on their characteristics. Yes.
Have you thought about aligning with like the National Cider Makers Association or something like that? Because I could see, I work for a native plant education and marketing organization that has
Okay.
a membership, an annual membership model, and it's a natural kind of thing that we do. It's similar. We don't have an app, and like if somebody made an app, you know, maybe we would like pay them a contracting consultant fee or something
Sure.
like that. But like, have you talked to them about that? Because then maybe people would be more willing to be on your platform.
They are on our radar. We want to talk to them, but we also want to talk, in this industry at least, the personal contact, actually going, making the effort of going to the place to talk to each individual member in that sort of an organization seems to do better than if you just went to the overarching organization. It's like, blast this out to your people. They're going to look at it and be like, who cares? But yes, we do plan to talk to them. Yep.
I don't know how licensing works for producing alcohol, but I would think that cideries have to be licensed somewhere.
They do.
The state.
Yes.
Is that information publicly available that you could just go to each state and get your licensed cider makers and test that data?
So, like I said before, alcohol laws are stupid, and some states classify it as a beer, some states classify it as a wine. You'd basically have to dig around in each state's lists to find these things. We already have a full list that we got through personal connections that the team has of all these ciders, and that's how we came up with our almost 600 cideries out there. So luckily someone else did the scraping for us, which was excellent. Yep. Yes?
If you found out if the information on there is not accurate, you would
like, is that just the responsibility of like the cider makers to keep their data on there accurate and charge them a fee? Or, like,
So that's why that's the $50 a month for cider makers. They would keep track of all their stuff. So we're seeding. I personally have gone through and scraped a whole bunch of really terrible cidery websites, found the over 3,000 individual ciders. We're going to put that in there, and then if the cider makers want to pay the $50 a month, they can keep track of it. Otherwise, we can't guarantee. It's just whatever was on their website, and who knows? Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm talking a whole bunch. This might be
It's
like
okay.
a stupid question, and this could be really difficult to do. I personally wouldn't know, but is it possible in like a future version 2 or 3 to integrate it with their point of sale system so that you automatically just kind of like know what they have?
Eventually, yes.
Okay.
But that would involve more connecting
Oh,
tubes that we
I'm
haven't.
sure it would be ridiculous,
Yes.
especially given how old a lot of those systems are.
Yes, but nothing is impossible when it comes to that sort of stuff. So yes, eventually we could do something like that. Yes.
Kind of go back on 2 questions about like outdated and also just like trying to control the data.
Mhm.
Have you guys thought about maybe like the information that you're scraping and maybe scraping less? Like especially looking at things that are already are going to be seasonal, like an offering list. Like
Right.
maybe that's not even on a premium, on like a regular listing. You're just like here's their address, but then trying to add because otherwise, like I say, there are going to be, let's talk about like 50% of your market that's never going to sign up.
Mhm.
And so 50% of your stuff is going to be outdated because you scraped it
Right.
a long time ago. So maybe like limiting what you're scraping and then saying, hey, as a premium, you can put your tab list on there. And it's like another reason for somebody to pay 50.
Yeah. I mean, the folks. So you're thinking the cidery is a seasonal operation rather than a full year?
No, I'm talking about the offering. Like I'm saying, like
Right.
the address, that's always going to be there.
Right.
That kind of information. But like what
Well,
what's on tab
and
is going to be what's seasonal.
most of the websites actually did have it marked seasonal, and we've put that information in. I mean, the scraping's basically done at this point, but I understand what you're saying. It makes sense. Yeah, it's a good point. Yes.
Or to add on to his comment, maybe eventually you could, have some place where you show the date information current as of.
Yes.
this. Because after you get going, you'll be re-scraping a certain percentage on a regular basis.
Right.
Just a thought.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. That is a good idea. I actually hadn't thought of that. That is an excellent idea.
There's no additional questions. I'll ask the last questions. What can we do as the entrepreneurial community to help you advance Cider?
So I'm glad everyone attended. Keep us in your thoughts. Go to our website, and if you're a cider enthusiast and you'd like to keep up with what we're doing, we're not doing a newsletter yet, but if you give us your email address, we promise not to give it to anyone else. We will just let you know when the app is getting there and getting ready to go. And if you do have contacts in the cider industry, we're always looking for more contacts. Some people are harder to reach than others, and it's that personal connection, like I said before, that really goes a long way in this industry. So if anyone knows anyone running a cidery, thinking about starting one, interested in cider, I'd love to talk to them. That's it.
Let's give it up to
Thank
Jay.
you.